Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Pepe, thank you for joining us today. All right. So today's guest is Jose Pepe Charles, senior consultant at MAP Consulting, a seasoned executive coach with over 40 years of international business leadership experience. Pepe has held leadership roles at Procter & Gamble, SC Johnson & Son, Best Foods, Casino Data Systems, and more. He's led business turnarounds, sales growth, and profitability improvements around the world. At MAP, Pepe has worked with hundreds of companies, helping CEOs and leadership teams implement structure, drive accountability, and scale their businesses effectively, the MAP way. His hands-on, no-nonsense approach has transformed companies across industries from construction and trades to manufacturing and technology, helping them execute at a higher level and develop stronger leaders. Pepe has played a pivotal role in long-term business transformations, working with clients like Pacific National Group, Bally Gaming, Right Tree Service, and many, many others. His clients consistently credit him for helping them achieve breakthrough results, growth, sustainable leadership development, and stronger company cultures. So today we're super lucky to have Pepe join us, talk about his journey, biggest lessons he's learned coaching leaders, and what it takes to build a business that lasts. So Pepe, thank you so much for being here. Really look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Michael. Looking forward to it.
Well, let's dive in. So my first question for you is, so you've worked with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Procter & Gamble. Before becoming a trusted advisor to hundreds of business leaders, when you see leadership at all these different levels and all these different climates and business types, what's one leadership principle that always works, no matter what?
To me, and thank you for sending those questions. And I wrote my answers to the questions, so it helps. The concept is preparation. Preparation. If you come into the meetings and you are just showing up and you haven't been prepared, it shows immediately. I think that one of the things that also separates my practice is, and I explain this to people, I bill you for the time that you and I are in front of it, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been working on your business before the meeting and working on your business after the meeting. So preparation is key in, showing up. And, one of the things that I wanted to take the opportunity to say up front, Andrew and Michael, is, a little bit about my background. Born and raised in Mexico City, industrial engineer undergrad. Then I was hired by Procter right out of engineering school. And then I went to London to get my MBA. So that for me was part of the preparation that started opening doors for me. The biggest things that opened doors for me in my life have been education and languages. So when I was 15 years old, my parents sent me to boarding school in Minnesota. And Andrew, after this podcast, I'm going to send you an e-version of my book, which I don't believe you have, right?
No.
C'est la vie, Everyday Lessons for Business and for Life, which was edited by Paul Chutko, the same guy that edited Vital Factors. So a really good guy and a friend of ours. But, this notion of preparation, I tell people, do your part and the opportunity will find you. So when these CEOs come in and, within the first 5 minutes, is he coming to this session prepared? Does he know what the issues are? How are we going to tackle this thing? Who are the person that should be involved into, the discussion? And importantly, identifying what are the action steps and what are the strategies that are going to be guided as a result of data-driven analysis.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's if your answer is going to be the same to my next question, which is, you work with so many different types of clients and companies. When you walk in, what are the signs that tell you whether they're high performing or it's just a big mess that needs to be cleaned up?
I love that. That's a great question.
So, for me, and people tell folks that are going to be new to the VFT, or there was a young lady in the workshop last week, and her name is Alejandra, and people warn them, say, you know what? Don't say that you know something. I was going to use the word BS, right? Don't pretend to know something if you don't, because this guy has a BS radar, and they will spot you immediately. So when you come into a new company, you're reading the tea leaves, right? And for me, that vibe that you get is called culture. What is the culture that that company has? Some people call it the receptionist. I call it the director of first impressions. How does this person greet you? Is there an excitement and energy in that company? Because I believe that leaders drive culture, culture drives behaviors, and behaviors get results.
I love that.
Culture is a little bit of that intangible thing that sometimes is difficult to describe, but very easy to feel. And you feel what that culture is like. Michael, you came to one of my VFTs at WKS back in the day, but I don't think we were in the new building yet, right? We were in the old building.
Old building.
Yeah. But if you were to go to the new building, you would see that everything about that building speaks our culture. First of all 5 conference rooms are named after our 5 values at WKS. So I say, I'm going to meet you in the winning conference room. I'm going to meet you in the leadership conference room. I'm going to meet you in the integrity conference room. I'm going to meet you in the teamwork conference room. I'm going to meet you in the service conference room. Constantly, when you are agreeing to meet, you're talking about our values. All glass, including the CEO's office. Everybody has full visibility on each other all the time. There's a culture of openness. Yes, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, no. I love what you're saying, because sometimes people talk about culture and the first thing they say is, hey, it's your core values and your principles of your organization, and it lays into how you communicate, how you hire, how you train, how you recognize. But what you just said was different. It encapsulates it. If I'm using, I can't say that word right now, but you said it's a feeling. You can feel it when you're there, and that's it. Because I've walked into businesses where sometimes you have that feeling of it's tense or it's tight or there's good camaraderie. And so that's a really good way to describe it. I've never heard it said that way.
Thank you. And you see it also in the world of sports, right? If the players are tight, and we just had the Super Bowl last weekend.
Josh Allen in the AFC Championship game came out on the first 2 drives. He was a little tight.
Yeah, and when you are tight, when you're more afraid of making a mistake than doing the right thing,
Oh,
yeah. So Pepe, you mentioned, I like the example of them naming their conference rooms. They did that intentionally, right? So people would be repeating their core values. Are there any other examples where the leaders, not just leader, were intentional about specific initiatives that help them build that culture or instill that with the company?
Well, one of the things that I always tell my clients, which I'm fortunate that I work with extremely wealthy people, which for some reason listen to me in terms of advice.
We all listen to you, Pepe. We have no choice.
But I tell them, the idea here is that you want to build abundance to share abundance. And this notion of sharing and educating people and providing them with opportunities. And I have some great clients. So one relatively new client is a super high-end home builder here in Las Vegas. And he was referred to me by a client of mine. He was actually my first close, Andrew. I knew him personally as a friend. And when I joined MAP, I called on him the first week. I'd like to tell you what I'm doing. And he said, that's exactly what I need. And I signed him up on my first week at MAP. I think that's probably a record, a senior consultant that signs a new client. And you know what, Andrew? They're still a client.
That's amazing.
23 years later. The only difference is that the son, who I knew when he was 9, is now the CEO.
Wow.
in my client, the original one, he's now the chairman of the board, and he's working 2 days a week and golfing the rest of the time and doing what he wants, when he wants, with who he wants. But this notion of having abundance gives you the opportunity to share, and that culture is felt. I was talking about Alejandro again, Michael. In that company, we have a program called the Dream On program. And I asked them to explain it to the group, and they were fascinated because there's an employee committee that identifies somebody that has a need, maybe a surgery, maybe an issue with an ailing father. And there's a fund that a certain percentage of the operating income is put into this fund to respond to needs of the employees, and it's voted by the employees. There's a group of them that are part of this Dream On committee, and they themselves select who's going to get it. And my client Greg is the one that funds it. And when you have abundance, it gives you flexibility, gives you opportunities. It's not all for just me. It's us.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
Yes, of willingness to share. Because when you give, you create a vacuum that attracts it back, and you can have more to share more.
That's an amazing program.
Yeah. And
really
WKS has something similar as well. The WKS Foundation.
It's
great.
That is great. Well,
Andrew,
go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, you got that. All I was going to say was, we talk a lot about A players and how A players want to win, and A players want to feel like they're getting developed to help them achieve their goals. This, to me, fits into the same mold from a cultural perspective. People want to grow and be developed, but also people have other needs, that we're in a unique position to help dreams happen or make dreams happen. So anyways, I love that concept. Andrew, back to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, Pepe, as a senior consultant for MAP, you've been with MAP for a long time. You've been a part of some incredible business transformations that businesses that turned into really high performing cultures and machines. Is there one that stands out that has been incredibly rewarding, or one that is notable to you?
Well, I'm going to tell you a couple of different stories. One was because the people that join MAP to be a senior consultant, they have to have had in their life experiences that give them credibility. So when I was hired by Right Service Corp, the CEO said to me, you know what? The reason we're going to work with you is because you have credibility. You've been there, done that. Number one.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Number two, you don't need this job. Obviously, you don't need this job. Because one of the things that happens in my practice, Andrew, I go pretty deep. And many of my clients have been to my house. I have been to their homes. They know my wife. I know their wife. We go to, this is not transactional. For me, this is relationships. Yeah. So when we talk about transformations, one of the ones that prepared me to do what I do with the MAP, engine, is that I had done it before. I had an opportunity to go to France for a gigantic turnaround. And when I mentioned languages before, when that executive recruiter found me and knew that I spoke French, that I had lived in Europe, that I had worked for multinationals in the United States, said, you know what, you're the needle in the haystack. And that 5-year transformation in France was phenomenal. Not only for the people involved, for me personally, in terms of financial rewards. And so it's not that you're coming here to do it for the first time. You've done it before.
Yeah.
So when we sold our company, I saw, I had some connections with Randy Hall. Did you ever meet Randy Hall, Andrew?
No.
So he is the Sherpa. And
he is.
We developed a relationship, and after we sold our company, I took a 1-year sabbatical, and we maintained the relationship. He kept an eye on me. And one day he calls up and says, are you getting restless? Because I was teaching at the MBA and UNLV and Regis, and I was doing some consulting, and I did, you see some paintings in the background. I did all my artistic production, and said, are you getting restless? I said, I am. So he said, you'd be a great consultant. So I joined MAP. My mindset was, I'll do MAP for a couple of years, and then I'm going to go into private equity. But you know what I did not know then is that I was going to find my calling.
Mm.
It's a calling, core value.
And yes, and when you find your calling, and if you don't answer your calling, you don't respond to your calling, you're missing a gigantic opportunity. Because for us, and you know, the my value proposition, a proven system for transforming your business and your life. For us, the type of people that are good at what we do at the senior consultant level is because they're at that phase where Michael was after he sold Restaurants on the Royal. He wanted to go from success to significance. He's no longer working for money, he's working for meaning. He wants to help, you know, he did a lot through his EO leadership chain as he was, you know, global chair and all of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is, in the end of the day, the most satisfactory thing that you can do. When I talk about life planning in the workshop, I said, you know, discover and develop your gifts, put them to work for the service of others, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, that's great.
But that requires a process of introspection. Discover and develop your gifts, put them to work for the service of others, and everything else will fall into place. Michael didn't buy MAP to be rich. That was not the thing. And, you know, if people are at the senior consultant level think that they're going to come and make, if they haven't made their wealth before, I got news for you. It's not going to happen here. It's different kind of wealth. It's the wealth of relationships and transformation. And, you know, I had, my sister was visiting over Christmas from Mexico City. And this individual that does the super high-end homes invited us to an open house. Do you know where Ascaya is, Michael, in Henderson? It's a big house. Entry point, 20 million.
Okay.
And,
wow.
20 to 40 million. In great view of the valley, right? So I took. My wife couldn't go because she was taking care of her mom who fell and broke her hip. But I took my sister, and my sister told me afterwards, you know, Pepe, it was amazing to see how happy these people were to see you. It's like they had seen the Pope or something. You know, it's like,
well, then now they know how we feel.
but you know, it's like, and then what? And then the CFO came over and introduced himself, and he said, you know, I've only been working with this company for 2 years. I said, you know what? The change in the culture and the accountability and all the things that we're doing. I mean, it's like, you know, that he was in awe. And he said, and it's not me, it's a combination of having the right senior consultant married to the MAP engine.
Yeah.
Focus, accountability, and teamwork.
Yeah. That's right.
That came up. Yeah, that was great. I read that, you know, I was reading Andrew, you sent me this testimonial from Right Tree Service on their website, you know, about you, Pepe.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about that exactly. They talk about
a little video.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see the video, but I saw the long testimonial from the former CEO.
Yeah.
It was great. And he talks about, you know, how did you say it? Accountability, focus, accountability,
teamwork.
and teamwork. And so he used that exactly.
Yeah, when I explain the MAP system to people, and I do it in the workshops, the MAP system is based on 3 fundamental principles: focus, accountability, and teamwork. Focus on what's important can be measured, which we in our branding call vital factors. Most people call it KPIs, but we call it vital factors because they're the vital signs of the business. Accountability through our proprietary goals and controls methodology. And then teamwork through problem solving and team building with team consulting. And then how we execute is what's inside of the triangle. Clearly defined vision, mission, and values, and the 6 fundamental functions of the professional manager: communication, planning, organizing, staffing, controlling, and leading. And when you do those 6 things well, the business is going to thrive. People are going to grow. Abundance is going to be there. Bonuses. So, you know, my guy with a big $20 million homes, he had never given bonuses before. So now that bonuses are being distributed because, you know, I planted the seed, you know, obviously they're happy to see me. Because, yeah.
You bet they are.
Yeah, because
they are.
Profit sharing is the brother or sister of sharing abundance. If you don't have a profit sharing system in your company, you're missing out.
Yeah.
You're missing out.
Mm. I like
Let's
that.
switch gears for a second. Pepe, you mentioned accountability a couple times there.
Yes.
When you work with clients, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they think they have accountability systems in place and you walk in and you're like, something's not right here? What do you see?
As you know, we do a lot of training programs as well through a concept called Leadership Academy. And we have several movie programs. And one of them is called 12 O'Clock High. And the concept of 12 O'Clock High is, what is the line? Because sometimes leaders want to be liked. They want to be their buddy. And you not only see it with leaders, you see it with parenting. Do you have kids, Andrew?
I do.
How old are they?
16 and 14.
Okay, and Michael has kids too. And in this age, the parents want to be their buddies. Hi, buddy, and this is buddy. I'm not your buddy. I'm your dad. And the same thing with people in companies. I'm not your buddy. I'm your boss. We can have a relationship, but if I have to evaluate between like and respect, I will always choose respect. And some of the guys think, oh, no, I can go drinking with the guys. I can go do this and do that. No, because you're blurring the line.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a true culture of accountability, as Mike says in the video, you got to let the standard be the villain, but you have to have a standard. Because, so what did Patrick Mahomes say after the Super Bowl? I did not play to my standard. I mean, the D-line of the Eagles were just dominant, right?
Crazy.
They were just
so
dominant. And you have to have all the elements of, you have to have the sales team, you have to have the operations team, you have to have the admin team, all of them playing together, and creating this cohesion that means, we're championship players. And, and you got to play elite.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play elite.
Okay, so to play that back, number one, it's ensuring you have a standard. So setting a standard, ensuring you have a standard that you are consistent with, ensuring your team knows what that standard is, and then having the systems in place so that you can actually hold them accountable to that standard on a regular basis.
Yeah. And do you mind, Andrew, if I put you to a little quiz here?
Uh-oh, maybe.
Have you heard about SMART goals?
Sure.
What is the S for?
Oh geez, you're a brain fart here.
We're gonna tag team this, Andrew. So S is specific.
Yes.
Measurable, attainable.
What is the A for?
Attainable?
That's what most people say, attainable. But
most people say that.
Philosophy is something different.
Yep.
Do you know what it is, Michael?
It's more. I'm using the wrong word here, but it's aggressive.
Achievable?
Is not the word, but it's
And it's linked to the concept of standard that we're talking about. Should I stop the
agreed upon
Thank
goals?
you. Yes, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Agreed upon. Because what happens when you agree to it, Andrew?
You're aligned. You're on the same page, right?
You own it. When you agree to it, you own it. What is the R for, Andrew?
Realistic.
No, that's what most people say. Michael?
That's what most people say. I know what T is. R. Don't tell me. No, it's. I want it. They have to be relevant.
Yes, Michael. 2 for 2. Relevant.
They have to be relevant.
Relevant in our world, connected to a vital factor. If you set a goal that is irrelevant, who cares?
Yeah, sure.
Who cares? Relevant. Is it going to move the needle on something worthwhile moving the needle on? So you got to really think it through. Yeah. That's what sets us apart. Most people say realistic, and they say achievable, and then finally the T is for the time frame. When is it due? When is something due that doesn't have a deadline? Never.
Yeah. See, Pepe, I like that so much better because it's not about realistic. If you look at any kind of goals, any kind of goal setting framework, they have to be negotiated and agreed upon, which is what you put in there for the A. And the agreed upon meets are going to be slightly aggressive. We don't expect our clients to achieve 100% of their goals. If you have a client achieving 100% of their goals, they're not setting goals that are aggressive enough. They're too soft. Yeah. So probably, I don't know, what would you say when you look at a company, what balancing all that, what percentage of goals do you think the company should be hitting?
80%.
80%. Okay.
So in the case of WKS, Michael, you know that I facilitate 8 different VFTs.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So
They get it. They're so smart.
It's been 15 years, and every major department and business unit has a VFT facilitated by me. And I am held accountable by Roland, the CEO, because if they don't have 75% of their MAP goals, they disqualify themselves from 50% of their profit sharing bonus.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Wow.
And my responsibility to not accept cream puffs as goals. Although they own Krispy Kreme brand, right? They have 60 Krispy Kreme restaurants.
Right.
So he knows that because of the way that I carry myself and the type of relationship that I have, if they throw in a little cream puff on the goals and controls, I'm going to say time out. Because we want things that are going to challenge us to do better.
Yeah.
When we do better, the profits are larger, the profit sharing bonus is larger, and profit sharing bonus is only part of the bonuses. There are other bonuses attached to performance, particularly those that are running large,
That's amazing. I love how they've tied the vital factor goals. They made it real for people, right? They're tying it to part of their compensation, the bonus.
And those vital factor goals are not set in a vacuum. So we have a process where we always analyze for every business unit and for the company as a whole, what went well last year? What were the opportunities for improvement that we have that we didn't quite accomplish? What are the top 5 challenges that we're facing in the upcoming year? And what are the top 5 strategic priorities? And that becomes the guide for what you're going to set goals on. Is it going to help us overcome address one of the opportunities? Is it going to help us overcome a challenge that we have on staffing, on funding, on building, whatever it is? And what are the strategic priorities? And the strategic priorities need to be measurable. The other ones, you can have other things, but the strategic priorities have to have a numeric value that will allow us to say yes or no. Did we accomplish our strategic priorities? Yes or no?
Yeah. Do you normally have a certain number of strategic priorities for a company, or does it?
5.
Okay.
Like 5, the big 5. Sometimes, 6, 7. But if you start going beyond that, then, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And do the departments, then each department or business unit would have their own priorities?
You don't cascade down. So, and then when we do the big planning retreat, which last year we did at the Terranea before it continues to sink into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Every business unit and every department comes prepared to present. There's 22 people in the room. Present what is their analysis of their department or business unit. We take all that data. We have a very sophisticated financial planning and analysis team, and then the leadership group, the executive VFT, gets together on day 2. And says, okay, what did we hear? And what do we boil it down at the corporate level?
Yeah.
So one of the things that Michael Johnson was struggling a little bit with, Michael, was the bottom-up approach. He is of the school of top-down. And I said, well, top-down maybe can work, but in our opinion, doesn't work as well as you have bottom-up. And then you analyze, and you don't have enough. Then you send it back down and say, okay, guys, that's not enough. And then you do the work until you have agreement on what is a reasonable target that is going to be challenging for everybody to accomplish, and that it's going to result in rewards for everyone. Because one of the things that I told you, the French story, Andrew, one of the things that helped me was that I negotiated with New York that I would have 10% of the operating income at my discretion for bonuses. They had never had bonuses before. And, and some of the international companies are not managed the same way that here in the U.S., and they're not compensated as highly as we are here in the U.S. So I said, sure, because the company was losing $20 million. By year 1, we broke even by reducing the product line, by understanding margins. And then roughly every year, we increased operating income by $10 million. So 10, 20, 30, 40. So 1 million, 2 million, 4 million to be distributed in bonuses to my key executives. It was life-changing for them. They would walk through bricks in order to, accomplish what we wanted to. So, and I had to overcome the cultural barrier. Here's a little Mexican guy coming in to turn a French operation. Are you kidding me? I don't know if you know your Mexican history, Andrew, but we were part of the French Empire. Mexico had a French emperor.
Yep.
You've been to Mexico City, right, Michael?
I'm going, I think, in May. I just got back from Guadalajara and Tequila.
Well, when you go to Mexico City, you'll see that in the central park of Mexico City called Chapultepec Park, there's a castle that was built for Maximilian, when he was the emperor, for his wife, Charlotte, who was the sister of Napoleon. So that's how we got a French emperor.
It's fascinating. The history in Latin and South America and the multiple countries that came over, obviously French, Spain, Portugal. It's fascinating when you look at that. You can see it because I just traveled through Latin America last week to Colombia, Guatemala, 5 countries, and you can see the imprint.
Yeah. And, Charles, my name is not a Spanish last name. It's actually Charles, because my father heritage was from that group that came with Maximilian, and Maximilian was killed, but fortunately my great-great-grandfather was not. So he ended up kind of marrying a Spanish woman and staying in Mexico.
Jeez.
There's a large French colony in Mexico.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pepe, I want to ask you some questions about issues people are dealing with right now. So, we have lots of MAP clients that may be dealing with this, but just broadly and generally, look, the start of 2025, turbulent. A lot of things happening with inflation, different regulations, labor shortages. I think it's a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
With the leaders you're working with, how do you coach them and guide them? What are they? How should they be navigating this and staying on top of it?
Well, the thing is, first of all, you have to be clear on what your strategic priorities are. And there's one of the questions that you sent me said that people are cutting back. None of my clients are cutting back. Actually, they're all accelerating because, when everybody runs out, you run in. When everybody sells, you buy. So they're actually growing market share. And they are actually, I tell people that we want to be a talent magnet. We want to be the company where the best want to play in. What do we need to do? We have to have a great culture. We have to invest in our people, and they have to see it. We have to have career paths. We have to have, all these, things that people recognize that are really actually cool because we're investing back in them. So, be clear on what your priorities are. Make sure that you stay focused and you don't start wiggling around because, sometimes some of the clients that we deal with are entrepreneurs, right? And entrepreneurs are notorious for shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
They try this, and then they try that, and then they try that. And, one of the things that we have is clearly defined lanes in what we do. And once you start building, I call it the 3 R's, Andrew. And the 3 R's start for responsiveness, reliability, and respect. So when I was talking to Michael Johnson, and I have a technique that I use that if there's a prospect, I hold them back at the end of the second morning. They've already seen the Cato video, which is when he was a client. And I said, and Michael, you've been in the room when I've asked this question. I said, why should I take you as a client?
Yeah.
Why should I take you as a client? First of all, they're in a room which is full of my clients, right? And they're talking about all these things, and so they're seeing proof of the pudding right there in the room. Why should I take you as a client? And your file says that you do this and you do that, and you're all over the place. Would you have the discipline? And would you have the capability to respond to the 3 R's? Well, what are the 3 R's? Responsiveness, reliability, and respect. And it has to be a mutually beneficial exchange of value. A mutually beneficial exchange of value. The fascinating thing was that when he was doing his Archer presentation the next day, he said, well, Mr. Archer, before we agree to work with you, we're going to have to interview you. And that's what I was doing yesterday with Michael Johnson. I had all these questions about his file and the information that he gave me and all of that, and I was challenging him to see if he would be a good fit.
Yeah.
And he understood the concept of being a good fit. because if a good fit is being based on respect, you know. And I know that Michael has been married for a long time to Carol. How many years, Michael?
It's going to be 25.
25. Pam and I will be 45 this year.
45.
How about you, Andrew?
We got married in 2007.
So you're coming on 17 years. And those relationships have to also respond to the 3 R's: responsiveness, reliability, and respect.
Yeah.
If you want a long-term, successful, mutually beneficial relationship, you got to work at it.
Oh yeah.
You got to work at it. And if somebody disrespects me, I fire them. Period. You know.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differentiators for MAP is, our senior consultants are not afraid to be fired. Like you just said, we're not there to be friends. We're there to be friendly,
Right.
But it's more about respect, keeping the line, because we have a job to do.
Yeah.
And, our job is to service that client, help them achieve the goals that they need to set, that they're setting. So I think that's really important. I think that's a lot about what this brand is at MAP. We're not for everybody. You have to be ready to be held accountable.
Yeah. And the senior consultants, in order to be effective, they have to, they have to have the economic equation resolved. If they haven't resolved their economic equation and they come to MAP to kind of make a living, that's not what this is about.
No, yeah, totally. Makes sense. It's a calling.
Yeah, and that's why, the best people are people that had a liquidity event, resolve the economic side of the equation, and now they're ready to go from success to significance. There's a book, Andrew, called Halftime, which his executive talks about, his personal journey.
Yeah.
He went from success to significant. He became an acolyte of Drucker. He had an event in his life that, he had built a big business that was making him a lot of money. But his son died in a whitewater rafting accident. And that shook him. He said, what am I living for? Ended up selling the business and then dedicating himself to, philanthropy and doing other things for other people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
There's another great book along those lines, which is Clayton Christensen. Are you familiar with him, Andrew?
Yeah. Familiar.
So, have you read any of his books?
I don't know. The name is familiar though.
Yeah. Michael, do you remember him?
Yeah. He How Will You Measure Your Life is his book. I just referred that whenever I mentor kids that are in college, I recommend that book. Yeah.
And he wrote The Innovator's Dilemma when we was at Harvard Business School. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. But I mean, it's about, it's about the legacy and looking at yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what? What is it? Is it going to be my bank account? Or is it going to be, the number of shoes that I have in my closet? Or is it going to be the type of relationships that I was able to build with people?
He's unbelievable. I studied under him. I studied disruptive innovation with him at Harvard.
Yeah.
I took a class and he was incredible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a prince, or he was a prince. But I mean, he left us a great legacy.
Yeah, I'll say. Wow.
Pepe,
great book.
I want to go back for a second. You mentioned, now with the clients you work with, they're not cutting, they're accelerating. With people like that, with leaders like that, or businesses like that buy when others are selling or go against the grain and thrive in the chaos, what do you think it is that's different about them, right? The people that can actually benefit or lean into that discomfort.
We have confidence that we have a process that works. And when you have confidence, I mentioned WKS, right? Roland gets calls every day from people that want to exit because he knows that we're a proven entity. We've done it before. We have the wherewithal. We have critical mass. We have great teams. So, and we have to sift them out. So I have a checklist that I give my clients in terms of M&A. How would you, assess a true M&A? Because most people don't really know how to navigate the M&A world. I happen to have done quite a few in my previous lives. And you have to have discipline and you have to understand culture. When we sold our company, Andrew, which was publicly traded but family controlled, we sold it to an Australian group. They paid us cash for it, and we knew that we could never work for them. So all the family members, we left because they were a completely different culture. They were an Australian cowboy culture. They wrote a check. We had fiduciary responsibility to sell it because it was a great offer, and we moved on. So if you underestimate culture, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
Okay.
So true.
We
could keep going, Andrew. We could ask. We got like 20 questions for you.
Well,
yeah, I have a ton.
The last questions that you sent me. How much time do we have left, Andrew?
A few more moments. A few minutes.
A few minutes, yeah.
Because you sent me a couple of questions. And he said, what is the hardest lesson you've had to learn in your career? Something that you only understood after going through it the hard way. Yeah. It's what I call the 70-30 rule. I mean, as I was moving up the food chain, director level and general manager and, managing a region, when I managed, Latin America, 12 countries, I was traveling 200 days a year. I would come in and visit the big four every month. And the little ones, the ones that you were kind of visiting, Michael, but although Colombia was one of the big four, I would go in and just see what they were doing. And I always had to do the little quarter turns and adjusting and I always put my 2 cents in. So it was no longer their idea, now it was my idea. And I felt good about it. Oh, how smart I am, right? But their motivation went down because this guy was nitpicking me on all my little ideas. So I adopted the 70-30 method. I only had to be 70% convinced that it was a good idea. The other 30%, they would make it up in enthusiasm because they would feel ownership. And boy, that took me a while. Oh, I was, looking on the this and that. Have you thought about this? And just, enough already. So that took me a while.
Wow. Andrew's going to use that on me.
No, but that's it. I don't know where I've
which
heard,
is fine.
I feel like I've heard that before. And I don't know what book I read that in or if it was a podcast or something, but I feel like I've heard that before and I love that.
Yeah. And then you also had a question at the end. Say we ask this from every guest. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice about leadership and business, what would it be? And this is what I wrote. It said, be mindful of what you say, how you say it, and to whom you say it. Eliminate the words, I disagree from your vocabulary. So, I came out of business school feeling like, here I come, the MBA graduate, and I would, start getting into larger and larger meetings. And I remember one specifically at SC Johnson in Racine, Wisconsin. Do you know that building, Andrew, the Frank Lloyd Wright building, the headquarters?
No.
If you're ever in the Midwest, go visit it. It's a jewel. So I'm sitting in a group with 20 people, and there's people making saying, and I would say, well, Michael, I completely disagree with you, and this is why. And I would proceed to destroy Michael in public because I came prepared. I had the data, and I just kind of obliterated the guy. And I thought, I'm puffing my chest, and without realizing that I was making 19 enemies.
Yeah.
Who is this idiot? Who does he think he is? And all they wanted to do afterwards was to trip me. Yeah. And that thing about, we teach the blind spot in the workshop. Have you heard about the Johari's window, Andrew?
No.
So Johari's window is what I use in the workshop to position 360. And these are two Harvard Business School professors that wrote, there's areas in your life that are known to you and known to others, that's your public life. Known to you, unknown to others, your private life. Unknown to you, but known to others, blind spot. And I explained the blind spot and said, one of the things we're going to do here momentarily is 360 to reduce the size of the blind spot because blind spots are dangerous. So I was walking around with a giant blind spot thinking, this guy is so smart. He's an idiot. This guy's making enemies everywhere he goes to. So that took me a while, not until I got a coach. that started helping me in those areas.
Oh, interesting. Through a coach. That's how you discovered it.
Yeah, in my 30s. I got a coach. And I got involved with
powerful.
other organizations like Rotary Club and others, where it's more, service before self. And kind of started maturing. It's a process of maturation.
Maturing, yeah.
Maturing. And shortly after that, I met Pamela, who is incredible, and she's the opposite. She is like super humble, and she's like, and she brings me down to size on a daily basis. She and my daughter, it's their favorite sport.
It's important to have those people in your life that can keep you level.
For sure. Yes.
Well, Pepe, this has been awesome.
Sometimes you can have too many, like I do. Too many that like to level me up, me, chop me down.
We're just trying to help, Mike. We're just trying to help.
I know. I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah. Pepe, you said earlier, it's like you talked about. I mean, you're like, you always have tough questions, and you have such a great BS filter. So every time I see Pepe, Andrew, I have to kind of be ready. So
you gotta be on your game. Be on your game.
Pepe. I walked into the workshop and I said, "Okay, 5 minutes on the clock."
We have fun. I think we banter quite a bit. It's fun.
Yeah. So, what else do you want to know, Andrew?
No, that this has been great, man. We really appreciate your time and spending it with us. I know it's valuable, and we hope we can have you on again sometime.
Yeah, and we have a lot of good things to share. My clients tell me, because one of the things that I would encourage you to do, Andrew, do you see feedback reports?
Some of them, yes.
Well, ask for some of my people, because I have the most pages of feedback reports of any senior consultant. Because at the end of every module, I have them go through. Have you noticed that, Michael?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and they don't know this, but whoever has the most pages at the end of the workshop gets a copy of my book. So yeah, and they don't know, so they get a copy of my book. And the 3 leaders get the Vital Factors book, and I ask them to read the foreword, which kind of positions the book. And Dane Hendrickson, right, Michael?
Yes.
So
never met him, unfortunately.
No, he was my team leader and my coach, and he wrote the foreword to the book. And so I have the winner. So when they get the book, I sign it for them. And but this notion of stopping and taking a step back and saying, what did we just learn here in the last 20 minutes? What did we learn here in the last 45 minutes? In the process of writing it down, I also teach what's called the LEARN method. Listen, engage, acknowledge, reply, note. And if you're note taking, if you're not writing down, you deprive yourself about 80% of the cognitive process. Because just a simple act of writing it down registers that concept and that idea. So, the winner this week was Alejandra. She had 13 pages of notes. So ask corporations to send you a few of the feedback reports from my clients that are
13 pages. That's amazing.
And somebody else. And you'll see 2 pages here, 10 pages here. I mean, operations knows that they need to load my box with 3 sets of vital learnings. And I consume every one of them.
Yeah, that's great.
That's awesome.
It's important. That's why that's part of our process. When we implement the MAP management system, the Vital Factor, team meetings, it's like there's always that section at the end. It's like, what's your key takeaway? What'd you learn?
Exactly.
And it's a great way to capture them.
Exactly.
That's awesome, Pepe.
Thank you.
All right, Pepe. Well, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Mike, good to see you again. And everyone, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
When will it be published?